If you've been searching Columbia, South Carolina, you've probably heard a lot about Northeast Columbia. Big homes, big neighborhood, tons of shopping nearby, and tons of affordable housing. But here's the catch. For every buyer that I've had fall in love with this area, I've had just as many that says this isn't what they pictured at all. And that's why I'm breaking down everything you need to know if you're considering Northeast Columbia, the pros, cons, and everything in between. And the goal? Get it all done within 30 minutes. So we're hitting the streets, showing the commutes and the neighborhoods. That way you can get a real feel for what it's like to live here, not just some highlight reel sales pitch video. And stick with me, because we're not just gonna be in the car. I'll actually be hopping out and showing you how far your budget really stretches in Northeast Columbia. We're gonna be stopping at some of the top neighborhoods along the way. And I can almost guarantee it's not what you'd expect. So as we roll through Northeast Columbia, I did speed up the driving so we can make sure to hit it all and not miss the important things that you need to know. Because I'm gonna be showing you the different pockets of this area, what makes them appealing, what catches people off guard, and the real differences between the neighborhoods that often get lumped together online. But if you wanna slow it down here in the settings on YouTube, you can adjust the speed if you wanna get that further perspective. All right, after the first stop, I will break down Northeast Columbia, for those not familiar, but let's get our bearings straight. So we got started on I-20, heading east out of Columbia. We picked things up right around the Clemson Road exit, which is one of the main gateways into Northeast Columbia, with shopping, restaurants, neighborhoods, and so much more, all clustered around it. And we will dive more into that later. From here, we kept rolling up towards Spears Creek Church Road, basically the last major exit before you push into Elgin and then Camden. Now, before we got off Spears Creek, you might have caught eye of a few neighborhoods on the right. We won't be stopping at those ones, but for reference, Victory Woods Village by Stanley Martin and Veranda, with home pricing around the mid 200s to 300, as well as Astoria Townhomes by Mungo, with pricing right around 200,000. But we're about to fall into that first neighborhood where, again, I'm gonna hop out, break this down, but after we get back in the car, I'll be breaking down further Northeast Columbia and so much more. So let's get after it. All right, so we're out here at the Wood Creek Farms neighborhood in Northeast Columbia. Beautiful master plan community. If you can't see behind me, it's also a golf course neighborhood. Now I'm gonna tell you about two different clients I had buy out here, kind of give you a perspective of who this neighborhood might be for, and then we'll talk about pricing. So first client, so they came from Florida. They had originally moved down there with the hopes of retirement, but like so many, insurance prices had gone up that their money just wasn't going far enough. So South Carolina checked the boxes, fell in love with Columbia. Now their priorities were, one, they wanted new construction. Two, they wanted something with a golf course. They loved golfing. But then the third is they had those bikes, you know, those bikes that are electric where you can pedal, but you can also scoot, right? So they needed a big enough neighborhood, and so many of the other ones we went to just didn't feel big enough, where this one's over 1,000 acres, so plenty of places to ride those. And so this just checked all those boxes, right? Golf course neighborhood, and then again, new construction. Now, second client was somebody, same, they just wanted a bigger master plan community, but they work downtown at the University of South Carolina, so they need an easy commute. I know so much we talk about Fort Jackson, but of course you got to think all the teachers and the facility faculty that work at University of South Carolina, this is an easier commute than some of the other areas. Now, let's talk about pricing. You got a wide variety in here, right? You're talking about probably 200,000 on the townhomes, up to, there's homes that are 2 million plus in some of these gated sections on the golf course over here. So wide variety. Now, the average is really right around 500,000, which is kind of the section I'm walking through right now. So you want those bigger estate style homes, expect to pay more. But again, like I said, you can easily find new construction in here. Not as much anymore, a lot of it's sold out, but you know, that 300,000 mark can get you into this neighborhood. There is a new section of townhomes coming in the future up front, and some patio homes still left over, but most of the new stuff is just about sold out. But again, great neighborhood and Wood Creek Farms. Now, it's gonna come up, crime. Something that gets brought up a lot in this area, people always ask me about, not just here, other parts as well. And when we're driving, I will find a time to squeeze it in and talk about that. So stick around for that if that's a question you have. Now, we're gonna head to the next stop, but if we kept heading down Spears Creek, things shift quickly. I mean, just past Wood Creek, you hit Two Notch Road, Highway 1, which is the main route into Elgin. From here, it's only about 10 minutes to downtown Elgin. That's why this road kind of matters so much. It's kind of the lifeline for those folks that live on the west side of Elgin, who want that extra space and rural feel, but still need easy access to the bigger shopping and dining spots that we're about to hit. Now, this road isn't just a shortcut. It's really that connector that ties the suburban Northeast Columbia, Wood Creek Farms, and the more rural lifestyle out in Elgin. Now, we just recently turned onto Clemson Road. Again, if you head to the left, just about 3 minutes down, you'll be right back at the interstate where we started. Now, we won't hit that section of Clemson Road again, but we will circle back to another neighborhood down that way that I have a lot of buyers asking me about, and actually has the current record for the second highest home ever sold off of Lake Murray in our entire MLS. Now, what is Northeast Columbia, for those not familiar? So we're talking about one of the largest suburban sections of the Columbia Metro, stretched along I-77 and I-20 where we got started. And it's grown massively over the last couple decades. And depending on who you ask, it's either one of the best areas for new construction, master plan communities, luxury living and convenience, or way too crowded and commercial. And look, if you're liking this kind of boots on the ground perspective, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because I've got more tours of the top Columbia neighborhoods coming, where we go deep into the neighborhoods, the price points, and the lifestyle, so you can really see if this area fits what you're looking for before you book that plane flight. Now, circling back, Clemson Road itself that we're on, it's one of the biggest connectors to this entire part of Columbia, tying together neighborhoods, schools, shopping, and the interstate. If you're considering living in this area, chances are you'll be on this road almost every day. It literally runs from I-20 where we started all the way to I-77, only changing names right before it gets there. But we're about to hop out again, so we'll circle back to more once we get back in the car. All right, so I feel like we're doing good on time, but if you know me, I can start to ramble a little bit, so hopefully we don't stay too long at some of these places. But now we're out here at the Villages at Sandhills. And if you talk to anybody in Northeast Columbia, they'll tell you about the Village at Sandhills.
It was close to Sandhills. Me and my wife really like Sandhills.
Okay, because this is kind of the major shopping complex for the entire area. I mean, you got this outdoor mall out here. As you can see, shops, restaurants, Belk, which is like a department store and all that. But not even this complex here. Just outside of it, you got even more stuff, right? Your Hobby Lobbies, your Lowe's, Home Depots, Targets, all of that stuff. So this is kind of that main shopping corridor for the entire area. So if you live in the area, at some point, you're gonna be spending some time here. Of course, you got grocery shops and things like that all around, but this is obviously the biggest major shopping hub, the entire area. And again, as you can see, it's massive, huge, all kinds of stores and shops out here. Home Depot, Belk, like I said, Lowe's, they got a fitness and sports, they got Academy Sports, they got a trampoline park, they got the movie theater. Again, just so much stuff here. Big hub of Northeast Columbia. Now, as we head to this next neighborhood, the first one, I'm gonna approach a little bit different. I'm actually gonna drive you down through the main corridor of the neighborhood. And I'll kind of break it down, hopefully give you a better perspective for this one as we drive through it. Now, the one after that is actually the neighborhood I've sold more homes in than any other neighborhood in Northeast Columbia. And I'll actually hop out at that neighborhood and kind of break it down a little bit more. But after it, I will drive you through a portion of the neighborhood to give you that better perspective. But before we get there, after these two neighborhoods, I will dive more into some of those need-to-know information about Northeast Columbia, including some of the most commonly asked questions about this area that you won't want to miss. So stick around with me as we break down these neighborhoods. But before we do, again, if you are considering the area, again, don't hesitate to reach out. We can help you narrow down, find out which neighborhood is best for you, whether it is new construction or resale, because each neighborhood have their own nuances. And the more we learn about your must-haves, as well as the deal breakers, the better we can guide you to a neighborhood and home that suits you best. But let's get started with the first one that we pulled into, the Summit. So the Summit is made up of multiple subsections with a variety of pricing. I mean, you have everything from patio style homes to estate style single family homes and everything in between. There's a multitude of parks, community pools, tennis courts, ponds, sidewalks, walking trails, and so much more. And as you saw as we pulled in, you got tucked right into some of the subsections, the schools. Now, these homes were built around 1990 to around 2008. And I've shown in here many times, and the variety, just to be honest, is wide. Some homes well kept up and updated, with others feeling a little more dated. This is one of those areas I tell people, pricing matters. If you're looking at a neighborhood and one seems like such a better deal and sitting on the market longer, there may be a reason for it. Because I promise you, the hot homes in these areas, I mean, they still sell fast. That convenience and proximity in these neighborhoods, as you can see, back to that shopping and so much more, is something so many people desire. But to give you an idea of pricing, homes sold between $164,000 and $360,000 over the last year, with the average coming right around $265,000 in the Summit, and that median coming in at $265,000 as well. Now, the average square footage was about 1971 square feet, with the largest home sold coming at 3504 square feet, and that average price per square foot at $139 per square foot. This is honestly one of the most budget-friendly master plan communities in the area. Now, we're heading out in the back of this neighborhood into another neighborhood. And after, we'll circle back to actually drive through the neighborhood a little bit more while I break down Northeast Columbia more. All right, so now we're out here at Lake Carolina. And this is a unique master plan community for our area because it actually has a downtown. That's right here in the neighborhood. You have this downtown, or as you can see, they got pizza shops, they got markets around the corner, restaurants, coffee shops, and so much more. And the housing all around with a wide variety. Now, let me give you some ideas of multiple clients I've had buying here. Of course, like I said, in the Northeast, probably sold more in this neighborhood than any other, but I can't cover them all. So one I had, they absolutely loved the idea of lake life living. And so we talked about Lake Murray for a while. And they couldn't afford on Lake Murray, so we started checking out the neighborhoods around Lake Murray, and none of them really seemed to fit the vibe of what they were looking for. So we came over here to Lake Carolina, and if you haven't been out here, did I just get pooped on? No, just water. And if you haven't been out here, they got their private man-made lake out here, and they were able to get a brand new house on the water for probably a third of the price it would have cost on Lake Murray. Now, of course, much smaller lake than Lake Murray, but for them, that was okay. They just lived that peaceful sitting on the dock at sunset, having a drink at the end of the night. They loved that, and they were able to achieve it out here. And again, the neighborhood itself. Had another client, young couple, young kids. They had traveled a lot, and they had been down in Texas and loved the idea of those master plan communities. So when they came to me, they said, hey, Brandon, we want that walkable neighborhood. Where's that neighborhood where we can take our kids on a walk, go to the pool, go to the park, maybe take them downtown to grab some ice cream, and be able to walk their kids to school. And you do have middle schools and elementary schools right here in the neighborhood. And this just checked all those boxes. And a third one, before we wrap up this area, is this couple was retired and they wanted to be able to walk to the YMCA. Love the YMCA. And so out here in Lake Carolina, you got a YMCA right in here. So again, wide variety of people of this checks the boxes for. Now, let me give you a little bit idea of pricing in this neighborhood, right? So again, wide variety, tons of different subsections in here. So you do have some that start in the 200,000s. I mean, they got townhomes in here, but you also got, of course, those $1 million ones in some of the gated sections. Now, I told you about that client, wasn't $1 million home, but that section did sell out. But you can still get some new stuff in here, not as much anymore. But on average, I would say the price in here is probably the high 300s. So not crazy. And then again, if you want access to the amenities in here, including that lake, you got to live in here. Something that gets asked a lot, right? In this section of, hey, if I don't live in Lake Carolina, can I go use the lake? Nope. Private to this neighborhood. So again, tons of perks of this neighborhood, but probably the biggest one again is this downtown. But they also have community pools, community parks, dog parks, walking trails, like I said, the YMCA, schools in here, and so much more. Tons of reason people love this neighborhood, including myself. So again, hopping back in the car, we're coming in that back entrance to Lake Carolina, through the summit where we just came from. And we will head out towards that main entrance and take you down hard Scrabble Road after this. But hopefully the drive before this gave you that perspective if you're trying to get back to the villages at Sandhills, I-20, and so much more. Of course, after heading out the other way, I'm gonna take you to the interstate I-77, that direction as well. So you'll kind of get the perspective of either direction, depending on which way you want to go or live inside Lake Carolina. Now, since I already broke down Lake Carolina, while we're cruising through here, let me give you a little bit of context about Northeast Columbia. Now, we'll talk about this later, but getting specifics in this area is always tough because what people consider Northeast Columbia often means different things to different people. But some of the information I can find, this area is home to just about under 65,000 people across about 24,000 households, with a median age coming in around 40 years old. So you'll see that healthy mix of young families, professionals, and retirees who've been here for the years. Now, the average home size in all of Northeast Columbia lands right around 2,000 square feet, with many of them, again, built in the 90s and early 2000s, with a median home price in the last year around $300,000. Now, on the income side, statistically, what I can research, the average household falls around $56,000 to $72,000 range, which is part of why this area attracts working professionals who want newer homes, good schools, and quick access to the interstates, as you'll see. And when it comes to property taxes, South Carolina already ranks among the lowest nationally. Now here in Richland County, it's slightly higher than the South Carolina average and neighboring Lexington County and neighboring Kershaw County. But locally, it's right about 0.74% of that assessed value. Now, one thing buyers don't always realize, this area is a little more dense and suburban, as you've seen, compared to spots like Wildewood, Chapin, and even parts of Lexington, to be honest. But you'll find those big master plan neighborhoods, golf course communities, and shopping corridors. But it doesn't have that small town vibe per se. So whether that density feels convenient or overwhelming really depends on your lifestyle. So that's kind of the quick snapshot of what life looks like here by the numbers. But as you've seen, depending on the price is really going to determine what you'll get. And we still got some highly sought after golf course neighborhoods to come up to, as well as some budget friendly new construction. So stick around with me. But as we kind of loop around this corner, we're going to be pulling into that downtown corridor right here in Lake Carolina. Give you that perspective. After this, we're just quickly going to hop back into the car, starting off on Scrabble Road. I'll give you perspective when we get over there, but wanted to at least give you that inside look of what Lake Carolina looks like. All right, so before we dive into more about Northeast Columbia, we're picking up on Scrabble Road. Let me give you a little perspective where we're at. So Lake Carolina is going to be just to the left of us. The next light we hit is going to be the main entrance out of Lake Carolina. Now, if we would have gone left at that light we were at, that would actually take you to some of the back entrances to Lake Carolina. It's also where the YMCA is going to be. It's also where some of the schools are going to be within Lake Carolina. If we would have headed to the right, that'll actually take you down to downtown Wildewood, over where Wildewood High School is, where Lake Carolina is actually zoned for. Now, Scrabble Road, again, is going to be one of the main drags through this entire area. We just passed on the right there, the Falls neighborhood by Mungo Homes, Veranda Homes, and then Stanley Martin Homes. That section is lapping up. That light, again, right there is the main entrance into Lake Carolina. But we're going to head down this towards the interstate, give you the perspective going out this way, and then again, head to some other neighborhoods, some budget-friendly neighborhoods, new construction, as well as some other golf course neighborhoods highly sought after in the area. But one thing I have to warn you about, if you're researching Northeast Columbia online, it can get confusing really fast. And again, here's why. This isn't one neatly defined town. It's a big, broad area made up of multiple zip codes. I mean, it's spread across Richland County with different school districts layered in, like Richland 1, Richland 2. This means you can have one subdivision feeding into a completely different school system than the neighborhood right across the road. I mean, for instance, Lake Carolina, that we just were in, depending on where you live, can be completely different elementary schools or even middle schools. Or you might be looking at a zip code that actually sits outside the city limits, which affects everything from taxes to the services that you get there. As well, you got one zip code, which is Elgin, over Wood Creek Farms, but it still lands in Richland County schools, where to me, true Elgin is until you get to Kershaw County, past where we were earlier. As well, Wildewood. Some consider Wildewood to be a part of Northeast Columbia. Others, really it's its own zip code and its own area. Now, we have specific ways to target these areas if you reach out, as there are workarounds depending on what you're specifically looking for. Is it some of these master plan subdivisions? Is it Wildewood specifically? Or is it, hey, we're okay with anywhere in the general area? Now, don't be surprised if you spend hours in Facebook groups or on Zillow and come away more confused than when you started because of this confusion. Again, that's why when we work with clients, we really drill down first into lifestyle and commute priorities, because otherwise it just feels like throwing darts at a giant map. And half the time, you're not even comparing truly the same things as you've seen as we rolled through here. A lot of different variety. Now, we are pulling back up to Clemson Road, if you remember from earlier. Again, this will run all the way to the left, back to Sandhills Mall, back to the interstate. Or it can run the other way, gonna take you down to the interstate that direction. Again, we're gonna keep heading down towards the interstate this direction. But this rolls us into one of the biggest questions that always comes up when people are researching Columbia: crime. And honestly, I get it. There's a ton of online forums and blanket statistics that can really make your head spin. Because when one zip code runs from Northeast Columbia into Columbia proper, and the next runs from Northeast Columbia to rural outskirts, it can really mess up generalized statistics. All right, if I look different, it's because I actually had to redo this section because I know it's important for everybody. I mean, just about every call you guys ask about this. So I want to give you a real answer, but of course, without crossing any fair housing lines. So here's the deal. Just like every city, Columbia's got good pockets and not so great pockets, right? But I think where people get tripped up is trying to apply that simple good side, bad side logic that you may be used to from other places. And it doesn't work here, right? I've had clients tell me, in my city, the east side is good and the west side, it's bad. Or this zip code is the good one and that zip code is bad. What's it like there? And honestly, it's not that simple. I mean, you can be in the same zip code and see two totally different worlds. And look, this isn't just a Columbia thing, even though that's what we're talking about right now. This is across the entire metro, so keep that in mind. But for example, right here in Northeast Columbia, you've literally got some of the most desirable neighborhoods right around the corner from areas or apartment complexes that show up on Patrol Live every weekend. And it's the same zip code, maybe even the same school districts, right? So that's why I tell people blanket statements don't work here. So what can you do? The best thing you can do is check out the actual raw data for yourself. And there's plenty of public sites out there right now. So LexisNexis is one I like. You can type in an address and see what's been reported recently in that neighborhood or even on that block, right? And then go and compare it to where you live to get a feel for it. Because the other aspect of this comes down to perspective, right? Recently I had a buyer ask me if I let my wife go to Walmart alone. And look, if you want to talk about safety, I'm not telling her what she can and can't do. But you get the point, right? And again, it's not that I'm trying to dodge the question. Because I see it all the time. Agents saying, fill in the blank city is good. I live there and you just assume that the entire city is good. And it's just not true. And it's why you hear me say, I won't give blanket answers just to shortcut the process, which is what I see it as. Because I want to give you the most accurate picture from my experience after living here for over a decade and helping over 100 people relocate here. Columbia's layout is different. And it's different than what I think most people expect. So that's where it really does come down to neighborhood by neighborhood. Again, versus all the people online trying to say, avoid this zip code, live in this zip code. And again, we got plenty of other tips if you want to reach out. Because I know you want to narrow this down, because I know safety is on everyone's mind. I get it. Now, as we pull up here, we're going to be making a left onto Scrabble Road. And as we make this left, this is actually going to take us back to the interstate. We're not going to hit the interstate though. We're going to continue back towards, again, some of those golf course neighborhoods and so much more. But to give you a perspective as we come around here, because I'm going to pick up a little bit more on Northeast Columbia, you also have MUSC out here, the Northeast campus. That's going to be down this road right near the interstate, not too far away. Or even heading straight is going to take you to some other new construction neighborhoods and so much more. But here's what I can share. From my own clients who live here, especially Lake Carolina, as I've sold a lot of people in that neighborhood, they love their neighborhoods. They don't call me with a bunch of major problems saying they need to leave. Of course, that doesn't mean, like I said, there aren't pockets with more activity in Columbia. I mean, I literally just saw a Facebook video of a high-speed chase down Decker Boulevard in Columbia. And if any of you ever watched On Patrol Live, the show that used to be Live PD, they follow local Richland County. So yes, you'll see hotspots on there pretty regularly. I challenge you to watch it, see if your neighborhood pops up in there. So bottom line, do your research. All right, so again, we made a left here to cut through this pass-through road. But down this road, a neighborhood we're gonna pass is actually gonna be to the right, just up around the corner. And it's gonna be two different neighborhoods. One new construction that just wrapped up and another that just kicked off. So the first one's gonna be Traverse Park. Again, wrapped up. But Next door to that, they opened a brand new subdivision that's going to be pretty comparable to Traverse Park called Haynes Park. Now, Haynes Park as well is going to have townhomes in there. And it's going to be this street coming up here on the right-hand side. I think we might have just passed it. And that neighborhood, though, townhomes, high 100s into the low 200s. As well, they have single-family homes in the 200s and pushing up from there. So again, one of the budget-friendly neighborhoods. And as you can see, as we pop out here at the end of this onto Two Notch Road, convenient location with easy access to the interstate. So that is another big reason we have a lot of people buy out this direction is Fort Jackson. So we didn't pass it in this video because obviously it's going to be closer to downtown Columbia. But if you're in this section here, I mean, you're talking probably 15, 20 minutes to that main gate there at Fort Jackson. So it's a convenient location. And obviously, as you see, depending on where you land in Northeast Columbia is really going to determine how long that commute is. But pulling up here again, we're going to be making a left onto Two Notch Road. Now, as we make a left onto Two Notch Road, I'm not going to pull in, but I'm actually going to stop and hop out. I didn't think about it till after I made the video because there is again, highly sought after neighborhood coming up here on the left-hand side that we're hop out. Afterwards though, again, state park that we'll talk about, as well as that big master plan community I talked to you about that has that second highest home off of MLS, second highest home. And I've had a lot of people eye that neighborhood and love that neighborhood. So stick around for that. But again, as we pull up here, we're gonna hop out and we will talk about this neighborhood on the left. So I don't think we're gonna make it looking at the clock, but people say I cheated either way because I sped up the driving, but I make the rules. So after further review, not cheating, but let's get after it because I'm not gonna stop just because the timer stops. You're gonna see everything, don't worry. All right, so we're out here at Spring Valley, another country club neighborhood right here, popular neighborhood in Northeast Columbia. Now, why do I have people choose this neighborhood over any of the other ones that we checked out? Now, if you noticed on all the other neighborhoods that we checked out, Wood Creek Farms, Lake Carolina, a lot of those are newer. You're talking 2000s and plus on the homes. And I get people that they love the idea of those golf course neighborhoods, that master plan feel, but like so many others, they want homes with character. And so they're looking for something more older established. And out here at Spring Valley, I mean, you're talking homes back in the 70s and 80s. As you can see, as I wrap around here, tree-lined streets and so much more. So those that want a little bit more of the established feel in that country club type neighborhood, Spring Valley checks that box. Another big reason they like it is because your proximity to downtown, right? We are a lot closer to Columbia than per se we are at Lake Carolina. And so that's the other big reason. But again, another beautiful neighborhood out here, tree-lined streets. You got the country club, you got lakes, you got ponds, tennis course at the country club, and so much more. But let me tell you about pricing out here. So again, 70s, 80s kind of build out here. You got pricing really starting in about probably the high 200s over the last year to the high 700s. Now the average comes in though right around the mid 400s. So definitely a little less pricey than some of the other country club neighborhoods that we've checked out on the average price, but still tons of beautiful homes in here. Otherwise though, we got one more neighborhood to hit. So let's get after it. All right, so as we pick back up coming out of the Spring Valley Country Club, there's gonna be on the left-hand side of the road, we're gonna fly past it, so you're probably not gonna notice it, but Sesquicentennial State Park. That's right here in the middle of this more suburban area, there's a state park. And this state park is almost 1,500 acres. That's right, it's massive, just passing it now. And if you haven't been out there, it's pretty impressive. You'll hear locals call it Sesqui, but they got big pond out there where you can go kayaking out there. They got little pedal boards that you can do out there. Tons of walking trails, camping, bike trails, so much more. There's even a little waterfall off one of the walking trails. They got a splash pad out there. Really cool, again, for those that love outdoor, love nature, but love to live in those suburban areas and don't want to feel like they have to drive 30 minutes. Right here in the middle of what feels like a city, you have that. So super cool highlight of the area that I know a lot of people like is to have direct access to Sesquicentennial State Park. But again, we're driving down Two Notch Road here. And as you can see, this is going to be another one of those big commercial hubs. And if we continue on this, we're actually going to turn right to that golf course neighborhood. But this is actually going to drop you right back off where we were earlier with the villages at Sandhills. So again, you can see lots of chain shopping around this area. Again, it's that older suburban feel with chain stores versus a small local downtown. So any chain store you can think of, you can just about get out here. Again, we're gonna make this turn here and start heading towards that golf course neighborhood that we're gonna hit before we wrap up this tour. And you wanna stick around for it. Again, you probably heard the name once I pull into it. But before we get there, let me talk about some pros and cons. Reason I've had clients that have come to the area and absolutely loved it. So the ones that loved it. So I had a client that they had moved around a little bit, but they had lived in Texas for a while and they absolutely loved down in those big metros where you have a ton of those master plan communities, and they like that concept of it. You head over to Lexington and most of those subdivisions are much smaller, just being honest. So we came over to Northeast Columbia and they absolutely fell in love with Lake Carolina, right? Having that walkability that you have in there, to be able to walk their kids to school in the morning, to go to the downtown if they just want to grab coffee or they want to, do a quick date night. You got the YMCA in there, right? They loved that idea of that, and I get it. As someone who moved here from California, we lived in a lot of those subdivision types areas, and Lake Carolina always reminds me of that, and it's such a cool place. And so those are the clients that I have love this area. They like more of that centralized location with everything to it. The ones that didn't, right? Kind of like I talked about before here, they like the concept of that smaller town feel, right? Where you have Lexington with their quaint downtown, little strip down there and all that. Places like Chapin, a little more local vibe versus commercial. And so this to them just felt a little bit more commercial than they were hoping for. And so that's why I say it's right for some people and other people, not so much. Now, the other big one I get is, again, a lot of these high-end neighborhoods. So again, as we make this right here, straight would take us right back to Clemson Road, where we got started off right off the interstate. But we made this turn right here into this neighborhood here. And again, before we stop in this neighborhood, kind of talk about that again, is these high-end neighborhoods. This has some of the most high-end homes we have in our entire area, right? Whether it was Wood Creek Farms, whether it is this neighborhood here, even sections of Lake Carolina, right? There's some gated sections, some massive houses sitting right on the lake, and a ton more outside of neighborhoods as well. And so another thing that people like about this area is that high-end golf course type neighborhood. Very few over in Lexington, right? You have Timberlake, homes around there, and then you have Golden Hills. You also have Lexington Country Club, but there's only a couple homes on it, so there's not much of that golf course lifestyle. And then of course Indian River, but that's more pushing towards West Columbia than it is per se Lexington, where again, you see how many we have out here. And this doesn't even account rolling into Blythewood, Cobblestone Park, Long Creek Plantation, that has 2 different golf courses in there, and so many more. And so that's why I say that's another big thing people like about this, that are looking for those big sprawling neighborhoods that's just harder to find on the Lexington, Chapin, and Irmo side of things. But like I said, we're gonna hop out here, talk about this neighborhood. All right, so we're out here at Wildewood. And again, this area has multiple of some of the top sales in our entire MLS off of Lake Murray. I mean, you're talking that near $3 million mark, which if you've been researching our area, is impressive. Now, why did I have clients choose this neighborhood and why is it so highly sought after? And then we'll talk about average pricing in the area. So I had a client that really loved golf course neighborhood. He liked the idea of the established versus the newer, loved those tree-lined streets. However, with that said, heading into places like Spring Valley, didn't care for those 60s, 70s homes, wanted something newer. This neighborhood has been building for decades. To give you an idea, these were old polo fields back in the day. And so you got homes all the way back to then, to even some not even 10 years old. So he grabbed one in one of the gated communities, not even 10 years old. So still get that very established feel, but not having an older home. And so that is the big reason for him. Now, again, beautiful community out here, older established neighborhood. And again, less of that true master plan community like you see in some of the new ones, where again, you had that strip coming in and all these different subsections off of either side with different varieties, ages, and character. And then of course, beautiful golf course with the country club over here, tennis courts, and so much more right in the middle. So many reasons that people attract to this area. Beautiful estate style homes, and then as well, some of those older classic homes mixed in between. Now, as far as pricing goes, right? So yes, you did have, even in the last year, you had a home that sold for 2.8 million in here, but you have some as low as 200 in those patio style homes. But truly on average, what you're looking in this area is those mid 500s. So while those high sales do pull the averages up, I still wouldn't consider this a budget friendly area because again, most of the time I'm showing clients out here, we're looking in that 500 plus range. Now, you'll want to check out this playlist here because as you've seen, each person finds a different neighborhood that checks boxes for them. It's not a matter of which is good or which is bad. It's finding out which one fits your style and vibe. And of course, we can help you with this. But if you're just getting started exploring, check out that playlist to learn more about the area to see which one checks your boxes. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.